Every time a killer called the cops on themselves. Amber Geiger. On September 6, 2018, Botham Jean was sitting on his couch eating ice cream. He was 26 years old and worked as an accountant at PricewaterhouseCoopers. He lived on the 4th floor of the Southside Flats apartment complex in Dallas, in apartment 1478. He was watching TV and had his laptop open. He had no idea someone was about to walk through his front door and shoot him. Amber Geiger was a 30-year-old Dallas police officer. She had just finished a 13-and-a-half-hour shift, and she was still in uniform with her gun on her hip. She drove to the apartment complex and parked on the 4th floor of the parking garage, but her apartment was on the 3rd floor, apartment 1378, one floor below Jean's place. Same layout, same floor plan, same hallway. She walked to what she thought was her door. The door was ajar. The lock on Jean's apartment was defective, and it didn't always latch properly. Geiger put her key in, and the door swung open. She saw a figure inside, and instead of backing out and calling for backup, she pulled her gun. She fired 2 shots and hit Jean once in the chest. Then she realized she was in the wrong apartment. She saw Jean's furniture was different. His TV was bigger than hers. There was a red doormat outside his door that she had walked right past. She called 911. On that call, she said 19 times that she thought she was in her own apartment. She kept repeating it over and over, but the thing prosecutors pointed out later was what else she said on the call. At one point, she told the dispatcher she was going to lose her job. She was more worried about her career than the man bleeding out on the floor, and before police even showed up, she sent 2 text messages to her partner, Martin Rivera. One of them said she needed him, the other said she messed up. She deleted those messages after. Prosecutors recovered them anyway. Body camera footage from the first officers on scene showed Jean was still alive when they arrived. Officer Keenan Blair started CPR. Geiger stood to the side, telling another officer she thought it was her apartment. She never mentioned where Jean had been shot. She never tried to help him. A crime scene expert later testified that Jean was rising from a seated position when she fired. He wasn't coming at her. He wasn't a threat. He was just a man getting up from his couch. Geiger was fired from the Dallas Police Department on September 24th. A grand jury indicted her for murder on November 30th. At trial, prosecutors showed racist social media posts from her accounts and proved she had missed multiple signs she was on the wrong floor, including the red doormat and a missing planter that normally sat outside her own door. The jury convicted her of murder after 5 hours. She got 10 years. She was the first Dallas police officer convicted of murder since the 1970s. In 2024, she was denied parole, and a civil jury ordered her to pay $98.65 million to Jean's family. Botham Jean was eating ice cream. Sheila Davalloo. Sheila Davalloo was a research scientist at Purdue Pharma. She was 33 years old and married to a man named Paul Christos, but she was also sleeping with a coworker named Nelson Sessler, and Sessler was engaged to another coworker named Annalisa Raimundo. On November 8, 2002, Davalloo went to Raimundo's apartment in Stamford and stabbed her to death. Then she walked to a payphone near the apartment and called 911. She told the dispatcher she thought a guy was attacking her neighbor. She said she didn't know the woman's name, but she lived in apartment 105. She gave a fake description of a male suspect and hung up. Police showed up and found Raimundo dead. They searched for the man Davalloo described. They canvassed the neighbors. Nobody matched the voice on the 911 call. The case went cold. And Davalloo went right back to Sessler. She consoled him while he grieved his dead fiancée, and by January they were sleeping together again. But Sessler wasn't enough. She still had a husband to deal with. On March 22, 2003, Davalloo suggested a bedroom game to Christos. She blindfolded him and handcuffed him to a chair. Then she stabbed him twice in the chest with a paring knife. Christos begged her to call 911. She picked up her phone, but she didn't call 911. She called Sessler and invited him to dinner. 30 minutes went by and no ambulance came. She told him a walk-in clinic was closed. After almost an hour, she agreed to drive him to the hospital. But in the parking lot of Westchester Medical Center, she stabbed him a 3rd time. He jumped out of the car and fought her off. Bystanders saw the whole thing and called police. Davalloo tried to come back and force Christos into the car, but the bystanders stopped her. Christos survived. He told police his wife tried to kill him, and when detectives checked Davalloo's phone records, they found she had called Sessler instead of 911. They called the Stamford detectives working the Raimundo case. The 2 cases clicked together. The 911 call from the payphone. A voice analyst confirmed it was Davalloo on the tape. She got 25 years for the attempted murder of Christos. Then she got 50 more for the murder of Raimundo. 75 years total. The 911 call she made to throw police off her trail was the thing that connected the 2 cases. Diane Downs. On the night of May 19, 1983, Diane Downs drove up to the emergency room at Mackenzie Willamette Hospital in Springfield, Oregon. Her 3 kids were in the back seat covered in blood. Christy was 8, Cheryl was 7, Danny was 3. All three had been shot with a .22 caliber gun. Cheryl was dead when they got there. Christy had suffered a stroke and wasn't breathing. Danny was paralyzed from the waist down. Downs herself had a gunshot wound in her left forearm. She told police a bushy-haired stranger flagged her down on a dark road called Old Mohawk Road and shot everyone, then ran off. Police put out an alert for the stranger, but things didn't add up from the start. Hospital workers said Downs was too calm. She didn't react the way a mother with 3 shot children should react. When a doctor told her Christy might be brain dead, she suggested pulling the plug, and then there was the drive to the hospital. Witnesses on the road that night saw Downs driving at about 5 to 7 miles per hour. She claimed she raced to the emergency room. She didn't. Investigators believed she drove slow on purpose, so the kids would bleed out before she arrived. The motive was a man named Robert Knickerbocker. He was a married co-worker back in Arizona that Downs had been obsessed with. Knickerbocker told police he ended the affair because he didn't want to be a father to anyone's children. Downs kept her diaries and police found them. The entries showed she believed if the children were gone, Knickerbocker would come to Oregon and be with her. Police arrested Downs on February 28, 1984, 9 months after the shootings. At trial, Christy had spent months relearning how to speak after her stroke. When prosecutors asked her who shot her, she pointed at her mother. She was 9 years old. Downs was convicted of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. She got life plus 50 years. She was pregnant during the trial and gave birth to a 4th child a month after the verdict. The state took the baby. In 1987, Downs escaped prison by climbing an 18-foot razor wire fence. She was on the run for 10 days before police caught her just blocks from the prison. Christy and Danny were later adopted by the prosecutor who tried the case. Lonnie Franklin Jr. Between 1985 and 2007, at least 10 women were found dead in alleys and dumpsters across South Los Angeles. Most had been shot with a .25 caliber gun. Most had been strangled too. Police called the killer the Grim Sleeper because there was a 14-year gap between 2 clusters of murders. In January 1987, police got a 911 call from an anonymous man. He said he wanted to report a dead body in an alley on East 56th Street. He gave a description of a white and blue Dodge van and even a license plate number. Police showed up and found the body of a woman named Barbara Ware. She had been shot in the chest. But something about the call was off. The caller said he saw someone dump the body from a van. Police wondered how he could see the victim was female in a dark alley at night, and the plate number he gave didn't match any van in the system. He wasn't a witness. He was the killer. And it wasn't the only time. Police later determined Franklin called 911. After at least 2 other murders, he called to report the bodies he had just dumped. He wanted to watch the cops show up. The voice on the recordings was saved and filed away. For 20 years, the case went nowhere. The DNA from victims didn't match anyone in the system. Then in 2010, an undercover detective followed Franklin's son to a pizza restaurant and collected a napkin and utensils he used. The son's DNA was a partial match to the crime scene evidence. Familial DNA. It led straight to his father. When police arrested 63-year-old Lonnie Franklin Jr., they found a .25 caliber pistol in his bedroom and over 1,000 photographs of women in his garage. Many were partially undressed. After the arrest, detectives played the old 911 recordings for Franklin's neighbors on 81st Street. Every person who heard the tape said the same thing. That's him. Franklin was convicted of 10 counts of murder and sentenced to death. He died in prison in 2020 at 67 years old. His neighbors recognized his voice before the DNA ever matched. Darlie Routier. On June 6, 1996 at 2:31 in the morning, 911 dispatchers in Rowlett, Texas got a call from a woman screaming that someone broke into her house and stabbed her children. The woman was 26-year-old Darlie Routier. Her 2 sons, Devin and Damon. Devin was 6, Damon was 5. Both had been stabbed. Police arrived within 3 minutes. Devin was already dead. Damon died on the way to the hospital. Routier had a wound on her neck and cuts on her arm. She told police she and the boys fell asleep in the living room while watching a movie. Her husband Darren was upstairs with their infant son. She said she woke up to Damon shaking her and saw the back of a man walking through the kitchen and into the garage. Police found a cut window screen in the garage, but the cut was made from inside the house, not outside. There was no blood on the window or the sill, and there was no sign anyone had climbed through it. The 911 call lasted 5 minutes and 42 seconds. Prosecutors used the call and the timeline to prove Routier's story didn't add up. In 5 minutes and 42 seconds, she would have had to stab the boys, slash herself, cut the screen, take a bloody sock and run it 75 yards down the alley in the dark, through a gate that barely worked, and come back before the call ended. The sock had blood from both Devin and Damon on it. And the way Routier talked on the call raised red flags. She gave information police didn't ask for. She referenced the knife. Her prints were on it. Investigators found that the blood on the floor showed serum separation, which meant the boys had been bleeding for longer than Routier's timeline allowed. 12 days after the murders, police arrested Routier. She was charged with capital murder. At trial, the prosecution called 38 witnesses. They showed video of Routier spraying silly string on the boys' graves at a birthday memorial, just days after they died. The jury found her guilty. She got death. Darlie Routier is still on death row. She has been there for almost 30 years. The case remains one of the most debated in Texas history. Her 911 call is still the first piece of evidence people listen to. Paul Michael Stephanie. On New Year's Eve 1980, a 20-year-old woman named Karen Potak was found lying on the steps of an art center in St. Paul, Minnesota. She had been beaten with a metal pipe. She survived. That same night, 911 got a call from a man crying so hard he could barely speak. He told the dispatcher he had attacked a girl. He begged them to find her. Then he hung up. 6 months later, on June 3, 1981, an 18-year-old woman named Kimberly Compton was found dead near the Matamedi exit off Highway 61. She had been stabbed repeatedly with an ice pick. 911 got another call from the same crying voice. The man said he was sorry. He said he killed that girl. He said he didn't know what was the matter with him and that he was sick. On July 21, 1982, a 33-year-old woman named Kathleen Greening was found drowned in her bathtub. No 911 call came in for that one, but police found the name Paul S. in Greening's address book with a phone number. 2 weeks later, on August 5, 1982, a 40-year-old nurse named Barbara Simons was found dead in Minneapolis. She had been stabbed over 100 times with an ice pick. The crying man called again. He told the dispatcher he had stabbed somebody. He said he couldn't stop himself and that he kept killing somebody. The police had the voice recordings. They had a pattern. They had a nickname for him now, the weepy-voiced killer, but they didn't have a face. Then on August 20, 1982, Stephanie picked up a 19-year-old woman named Denise Williams. He drove her to a dead-end road and attacked her with a screwdriver. He stabbed her 15 times, but Williams grabbed a glass bottle and smashed it over his head. He started bleeding badly. She got away. And then Stephanie did what he always did. He called 911, but this time it wasn't to confess. It was because he was hurt. He needed an ambulance for himself. His voice was the same voice from every other call. Williams survived and gave police his license plate number. They matched the plate to a 37-year-old hospital janitor named Paul Michael Stephanie. The voice on every 911 call matched. He was convicted of the murder of Barbara Simons and the attempted murder of Denise Williams. He got 40 years. In 1997, while dying of skin cancer in prison, he confessed to the murder of Kathleen Greening. He died in 1998. The woman who stopped him was the one he didn't call.